Talk podcast preview show. This week, we're talking all things Bristol Rovers. When we're talking about the FCA nominated, and we've been talking about it a fair amount, the GasCast podcast was also there. There were FCA nominated within our category and well-deserved. And I've got Max here with me from the team who's going to talk all things Bristol Rovers with me. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I think we're kind of over the hill of recovery.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah.
You saw heads, I think, on Friday morning, but a nice little weekend to recover and get ready for this week.
Exactly. I think when we look back at the night, I think it was one of them where you go, if we can just take every bit of memories as we can, and whatever we can remember that's not led by certain beverages, then we'll take it. But no, just obviously talking about it. Obviously, you guys with the pods were much deserved to be nominated for the FCAs within our category as well as us, and. Do you mind just talking about how you guys felt going into the evening, how much you enjoyed it, what you got up to, etc.?
Yeah. We don't often put ourselves forwards for awards like this, or like ask for nominations. We just felt we've been going for 8 years now as a podcast, and over that 8 years, it's changed a lot. We used to have it on SoundCloud back in the day, and then we would kind of do it once every 5-6 weeks, and then as time's gone on, it's become more regular, a bit more, I say professional. We chat rubbish, so it's not really professional, but professional in terms of the quality of the equipment we have, at least, and the regularity of it. But yeah, we just thought it was a good kind of milestone for us. We just hit our 8-year anniversary, and we thought we'll try and go for something and maybe just ultimately just celebrate what we've done over the last 8 years, and especially in lockdown, which was probably good for podcasts, but not much else. But that was kind of a big spike for us, so we wanted to kind of celebrate everything we've done since then, and yeah, meet some great people like yourselves and other podcasts and other bloggers and vloggers, and of which there were a plenty, and it was a great evening. And yes, we didn't win, we didn't place top 3, but we were, as you say, just happy to be there and celebrating the work we've done. And we're thankful to everyone who voted for us and nominated us, but wasn't to be for the GasCast podcast. But I think of the Football League podcasts, we were the smallest club by far. I think other than yourselves, we're the only League One club. And, when you compare us to you, you're a much bigger League One club than we are. So, yeah, I think everyone else was a Championship club. So we were, in true Bristol Rovers spirit, we were always the underdog going into it. But no giant killing on this occasion.
No, well, you said it there. The GasCast team with us were the only League One contenders going into it. You look at it, and you had the Middlesbrough team, the Middlesbrough breakdown. You had the Southampton pod, and obviously the ultimate winner, Peterborough's owners won, and stuff like that. And you kind of look at it and you go, well, we've not all done too bad to be here, as I say. Exactly. And especially we've paved the way for League One. So we'll take that as a win between the two of us.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so when you look at the game this weekend, as I say, real weird things going on with you guys, haven't we? We've got a managerial change. I don't know whether that means a real change in philosophy. Joey Barton's quite a well-renowned manager for some of the things off the pitch as well as on the pitch. So, I mean, managerial change, was that a surprise to you? Is it a welcome surprise? Is it something that you weren't expecting?
Not really a surprise for me in terms of the results on the pitch. I think warranted a sacking for sure. I'm surprised that this board, who have been quite supportive of him and quite ride or die with him, did pull the trigger. I think we had a change of ownership over the summer. New majority shareholders now own 51% of the club, who've come in from Kuwait, the Kuwaiti owners, and the previous club president, who owned the majority of the club, is now minority with around 40% of the club, and he's the one who's been very, very supportive of Joe Barton and giving him quite a large transfer budget. And obviously we got relegated and we kept him, took us back up to League One at the first time of asking, and last season. He was given a lot of money to kind of restructure us and push us on. We kind of came into this season playing like we're trying to replicate what Brighton are trying to do at a higher level, where we are playing out from the back, inviting the press, and then trying to, once that press is coming, like play with quite a fast pace through the thirds to get a numbers advantage, like 5-on-5 in the opposition half. It's not really worked under Joe Barton, which is why he's got the sack. Teams are not interested in pressing you at this level. Your Wickhams and your Lincolns and your Burtons will quite happily sit back and just let you pass it around the back until you do eventually get bored and try and get a bit higher. You lose it, and then they counter you in the same way that you wanted to counter them. So it hasn't worked. I think maybe it was a bit naive of Barton to think it could, although I definitely bought into it in pre-season because we had some pretty eye-catching results. We played really well against Portsmouth and Barnsley early doors. So I was, optimistic that we could really do something with that style, but it hadn't worked. He said in the summer, we finished 17th last year. He said 17th is acceptable this year, but it will not be at all acceptable next year. And he got sacked with us 17th in the table. So it was kind of poetic, really. But yeah, I do feel it was the right time. And I feel, for me, it's welcome. I never really liked the guy as a person. I kind of bought into the way he wanted to play. And sometimes he would say stuff and I was like, I really want to like you, but you let yourself down too often. It just grew tiresome. And I think when he was sacked, it was just a relief to so many people. And then the next game, we had our record home attendance. So I think that said a lot as well about how many people didn't really like him despite the promotion. So, I think a welcome change. Interesting to see the direction we're going in now and where we'll go from here.
Well, yeah. So now, I mean, you've got Andy Mangan. Is that it?
Yeah, that's
Mangan.
right.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure I got that right. I don't want to stir any pots. But yeah, you're now sitting ninth in the table, and as you say, when Jerry Barton left, you were near the bottom of the foot of the table. That is quite an astounding for a caretaker manager in terms of results with the same squad of players. I mean, what have you really seen that's changed drastically? And is it the style? Is it a completely different style that's just really suited this team and what really Joe Barton should have got out of this team during his tenure?
Yes and no. It's a completely different style. So Mangan has come in and he is instantly changed from 4-2-3-1, which is what Barton liked to play, to 4-4-2, flat 4-4-2 with kind of defensive-minded wingers. Still trying to be a bit possession-based, but also quite happy to not have the ball at times. Getting down the flanks, cross balls into Chris Martin and Aaron Collins to try and be poachers in the box, really. And it's worked, but like you say, we've risen up the table to 9th place from 17th, 16th when Barton left. We've played 3 league games. We've won 2 and we've lost 1. We've won 2 and we've drawn 1. So 7 points from 9 under Mangum, which is really great. And I can't knock it. But what I will say is that the 3 teams we played were all in the relegation zone when we played them. So we played Northampton at home and they were in the relegation zone. We beat them 2-1 narrowly with a few scares, but we did win. Was not really a convincing performance, but we did get the win. Then we go away to Reading, which was a really, really poor 1-1 draw where they were bottom of the league. They didn't look good at all. We lost possession trying to play fancy at the back and they scored and we really struggled to create anything and thankfully did get a goal. But didn't deserve anything more than a point there. Left a lot aesthetically to be desired. And then, I really can't knock the Carlisle away win. Yes, they're in the relegation zone, but it's always a tough place to go with the mileage you have to do to get there. And we scraped a very unappealing 1-0 win with, I think, an own goal. And I think we had 1 shot on target other than that. So, not the most entertaining matches, but you can't argue with the results. This is the thing that Barton struggled to do. We lost some silly games earlier in the season to the likes of Burton by trying to play to fancy, and we lost 4-1. I think what Mangan's done is he's come in and instead of trying to win fancy in an entertaining and aesthetically pleasing way, he knows that he has to win. It's not that he would like to win and this is the way we need to. He's almost cut out all the things that could potentially make us lose and minimise that and maximise our strengths. And because he knows he needs to win everything 1-0. If he wants the job and he wants to get us up that table, he's had to sacrifice all the bells and whistles, go back to basics, keep it simple, and 1-0 at all costs, basically. So it leaves a lot to be desired. And we've been down this route before a few years ago with Graham Coughlin, who was caretaker after Darryl Clark left. Got the job eventually, and he did do that for the best part of a year, got us quite high up in the table before suddenly leaving. But the football was not great. But yeah, the thing is with Mangan is, he's doing what he needs to do. And if he 1-0s us up to the playoffs, I will have no complaints. But it's hard to give him the job for me, because these wins have been against teams in the relegation zone, and we've not tested this against a mid-table or even a playoff or higher team. So for me, we'll need to wait and see. I think this Saturday's game, if he is still in charge, will be a really good indication as to whether he's got the mettle for the job full time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I was just looking through the results, and you kind of hit that nail on the head. You look at the opposition level, and you kind of just look at it and take a step back, and you might think, as a fan base, it's great that we have pulled these results out the bag from where we were, but they're against opposition that you, with the quality within the squad, that you might go, we should get the results against them. And I mean, you skirted over the league results, but even as I say, the small win, I'm going to say small win, you won 7-2 against Whitby in the FA Cup, but it's still 7 goals that you've scored that you weren't scoring previously, and it's getting form into strikers that weren't in there previously. So again, he's changed the mantra, which is kind of what you need out of the manager, whether he's caretaker or not, which is then, as you were saying, it's just then whether he can rarely replicate that against teams who are in the upper echelons of League One, if you want to call it the upper echelons.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the 7-2 was impressive in terms of like the attacking quality, but I wanted us to then take that confidence to Reading away in front of 3,000 Rovers fans. First time we played Reading in a large number of years, a huge away following. They're down in the dumps. They've not got a great squad. Their fans are irritated and frustrated and trying to protest, and they've had a points deduction, and I think they lost their previous 5 games. So I was like, let's go there with a huge following and keep that attacking entertainment and confidence, and it just wasn't there at all. We looked really lackluster. Drew 1-1. And yeah, we didn't really have the tactical nous or creativity to kind of break them down, which was frustrating. But it was a point. I mean, we went 1-0 down. It could have been 2. We did pull it back, so I can't have too many complaints. Like I say, we need to test this. It really depends on whether the board are going to appoint someone this week before the weekend, or if they say to Mangan, look, we'll give you 2 more games. We've got Derby away, and then we've got Leyton Orient at home on the Tuesday. So they may well say, we'll give you these 2 games. We'll see how you do, and go from there, really. But yeah, the whole managerial appointment process has been very, very confusing, as we may go on to talk about. But yeah, it's he is getting results from 5 games in all competitions, including the FA Cup and Checker Trade Trophy, or Bristol Street Motors Trophy, as it's now called, I think.
Yeah, it changes hands every week.
Yeah, he's got 4 wins and a draw, so it is impressive, but also unspectacular. So it's I mean, for me that's fine, but it's just, you can't really use that as a good sample size, I don't think, given the quality of the opposition in all of those.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, just before we go on to talk about the team, we might as well talk about the managerial odds. I mean, I'm just looking at a particular one in front of me. I mean, you've got Andy Magnan as favourite. Again, results might help him with that. But then you've got Carl Robinson, previously at Oxford. You've got Matty Taylor. You've got Gary Monk, Neil Lennon. Again, Gareth Ainsworth is on there. How many of these are actually true? I have no idea. And you probably know a little bit more about it than just the ones I've pulled up in front of me. But I mean, if it isn't Andy Magnan, where would you kind of look? And as you say, you've kind of alluded to it there. It's been a little bit weird with the managerial appointments. Bristol Rovers. It just got to bring us up to speed there.
Yeah, so the new owners came out after Barton's sacking and said it was purely results-based decision. They all really liked Joe as a person. They thought he was a good character. He's always welcome back at the football club, but the results weren't good enough for the budget he had. They said they wanted a coach to come in who has ideally won promotion from this division before. Ideally had experience at a higher level in the Championship managing, and ideally is a young coach. So those are the 3 criteria they've set out. And, you know, if you know one, give me a call. Give us a call. I think everyone would like that as their manager. Right. I think that's the ideal criteria they want. And for me, you know, looking at that as a criteria and the managers available, Neil Harris fit the bill. He was linked quite early, got promoted with Millwall, managed in the Championship with them in Cardiff. Obviously was down with Gillingham recently, but been in the area, obviously, because he managed Cardiff. And then Carl Robinson's another one promotion with MK Dons to the Championship, has 500 League One games to his name. And across those 500 games, he's got 1.6 points per games average, which is, if you ignoring the poor spell at Oxford last season, is a tremendous record. His teams are always up there, always in and around the playoffs. I think his style would suit the team. So yeah, those 2 were kind of the front runners. Gary Monk was mentioned as well, though he's not managed below the Championship before. He has got that experience at a higher level. He's taken a bit of a break from the game, so he kind of maybe fitted someone who would like to come in and tackle this project. But then we were reportedly interviewing Ian Holloway, who is old, hasn't won promotion from League One, has a quite more dated style of football. And then also reportedly looking at Southend's Kevin Mayer, who's in the National League with 16th, doing a great job with Southend, keeping them afloat. Used to coach at Rovers as a defensive coach, but it's a little bit like, okay, well, that doesn't fit the criteria either. And then, reportedly speaking to other managers as well, Matt Taylor got sacked from Rotherham last week. And then 2 days later, reportedly, we made contact with him and we're talking with him. So that says to me, again, we're not really sure. I mean, I like Matt Taylor and I like what he's done, but it's almost like, oh, another one. Yeah, let's talk to him. Oh, let's talk to him. It doesn't strike me as we're a club who have been blown away by anyone who we've spoken to, and that we've diverted away from this criteria we've set for ourselves. And it seems like we're just talking to everyone, which I've no problem with that. I'm quite happy for us to talk to as many people as possible, get a good feel for what's out there. But the fact that it's been nearly 4.5 weeks since we sacked Barton, I think, or since the club decided they were going to sack Barton after the Burton defeat, to still be umming and ahhing and, do we give it Mangan? Do we give it Matt Taylor? What about Monk, who we've interviewed? What about Robinson, who we've interviewed? And to have still been like, that if they were keen on any of them, they would have appointed them by now. Or maybe they're not keen on us. I'm not sure. But it just seems like a little bit of a mess. And, now I've said this, they'll go and appoint Matt Taylor tomorrow or something, I'm sure. But it's inconsistent. And I'm very confused. You go back to when we appointed Barton. That season we'd had the season before we'd had Graham Coughlin, a very defensive coach, take us to 4th in the league. He left and we brought in Ben Garner, a very young possession-based coach. It all went wrong. COVID happened, the season ended. Then he carried on the job, had a terrible start, was sacked. We brought in Paul Tisdale, who's a more direct manager. He was sacked, and then we bring in Joe Barton, who's a more possession manager. It's just like, where's the consistency? What's the plan? What style of football do we want to play? What's our philosophy we want to invoke? There was no consistency from appointment to appointment. And this is just striking me again as we don't know what we want. And we say we do by setting out this criteria, but then we do something very different by talking to all these different people with all these different styles. And it's like, Oxford, in the time Rovers have sat their manager, Bristol City have sat their manager. They've brought in Manning from Oxford. Oxford have brought in Des Buckingham. Lincoln have appointed someone. And it's like these clubs are on it. They know what they want. They have targets. They go out and get them. And we're just umming and ahhing. And it says to me, why did we sack Barton without a plan for what we wanted to do? It was like, yes, it was results-based. And I agree with the sacking. But what was the plan? Because it doesn't seem there was one. It seemed like they sacked him first and asked questions later, which has left us in this bit of I guess it's not a mess because we're doing all right in the league and nice, but we'll see how it goes. Only time's going to tell on that one.
It is, and I mean, in the meantime, your team's not doing too bad. I mean, I'm just looking at a couple of players in particular. I mean, you're probably going to know which ones are two I'm going to bring up. your two strikers, Collins and Martin, a certain one that I pray to God won't score at the weekend, because I think if he does, none of us are going to know what to do. Do we boo? Do we cheer? Do we just let you guys have it? I don't know. But I mean, both of them are on the score sheets this season, both doing well under the new regime, whatever happens going forward. So they will pose a threat to Derby this weekend, either way. Talk to me about both of them. I mean, Chris Martin was quite a rogue one for you guys to go and get after Clark Harris kind of fell by the wayside. I mean, it seems to have proved off quite well. I mean, I could see you getting Clark Harris maybe again, and you have three great strikers on the books. Just talk to me about those two.
Yeah, I do like Martin a lot. I think he's a very intelligent forward. He has such a smart footballing brain in that final third, which is what we've needed, because we do look very naive otherwise in the attacking third. So he's got that nice and that that kind of instinct that I don't think a lot of our other forwards have. I don't particularly mind us signing players who have directly from Bristol City or released from Bristol City. I know the other way round it isn't quite as acceptable, but we do tend to, especially recently, pick up their unwanteds, because it's quite convenient. These players don't have to move house or relocate their families. They only have to drop a little bit down one division, and their quality is not too it's better for us. And I spoke to a lot of my friends who are Bristol City fans within the city, and they've all said you're getting a cracking player. He's, especially at League One level, a lot of them would have kept him at Championship level just for his brain, and he's not the quickest, as you probably know, but what he can bring to a side has been a big plus. John Marquis has not been firing for us this season, really. I really thought he'd have a cracking season. After last year, he didn't have a lot of minutes, but he had a lot of goals per minute. And I thought, with him at the spearhead, with all this attacking creativity around him, he's going to hit 20, as he has done before at this level, but he's just missed some sitters. Whereas Martin's come in and he's got 3 goals in 3 league games, and he's looked really, really good. Clever back heel finish for one, clever jink through the lines and low finish for another. And he's just been, the other one was a 35-yard chip. So he's got all of it in his locker, and he's been a great addition. And he's been really good for Collins, I think, who has been a victim of his own success. I think last year his numbers were ridiculous.
They were,
By Christmas, he'd done the double-double. So he'd had 10 goals, 10 assists by Christmas. And, if football doesn't work this way, but if he was going to continue that, he would have got 20 goals, 20 assists by the end of the season. As it happened, he had 2 goals from Christmas to the end of the season. His form dropped off a cliff, really. And this season, he's been a victim of his own success. I think the expectations are high because he won Player of the Year in League One last season. And he's, for me, for someone who's played left wing every game, he's played 1 or 2 games at attacking midfield, I think, but never really directly up front until we've switched to this 4-4-2 lately. For someone who's, for all intents and purposes, a left winger, his numbers are very good. I think he's got 8 goals and assists combined, which is a goal contribution, I think, every other game for us, because we've played 16 games. So I think for a winger, most clubs would be happy with that. But a lot of fans are a little bit critical of him because the numbers he hit last season was so good that they're kind of expecting that again. But he's developing, he's learning, he's adapting his game to kind of play a little bit wider in a side that's been very inconsistent with results. He's not got a very great relationship. And when I say relationship, I mean kind of chemistry on the pitch with the forwards we have. Last season, he had Josh Coburn, who he worked really well with. This year, he hasn't quite clicked with Giovanni Brown. He hasn't quite clicked with Martin or Marquis. And he's just struggling to find that kind of partnership up front. But he's still, putting in good numbers and contributing in front of goals. So I think, people are maybe a little bit more critical on him than he should be. But yeah, I'm quite enjoying him in this 4-4-2 with Martin. He kind of plays a little bit deeper, a little bit more of a free role where Martin kind of spearheads the attack. And it's not getting tons of goals at the minute, but they're still kind of trying to develop that partnership. And I'm hopeful that they can kind of click in a week or two.
Well, I'm hoping it is in a week or two, and it's not this week.
Yes.
I mean, if Derby fans were going to go into Saturday, we've just come off the back of a really weird bipolar performance against Crewe, going into the international break, and Derby fans are going to want to hear a little bit of positivity going into this game. I mean, if we were going to hurt you in terms of posing a threat, where would you see that being in a recently rejuvenated Bristol Rovers?
I think it would probably be through pressing us high. We like to try and keep it. I think that kind of philosophy that Barton implemented is still there, even in this more defensive flat 4-4-2. Reading caught us out in possession and scored a goal pretty much because we gave it away at centre mid with only 2 or 3 players back because we were trying to work through the thirds. And then after they scored about 2 minutes later, our right back was trying to keep the ball and basically lost it, slipped in a striker, and he basically missed a really good chance. So that was quite worrying. We're also missing Connor Taylor, who's an absolute phenomenal signing for us. We had him on loan in League Two and he was immense. On loan from Stoke, then played a season in the Championship for Stoke. They didn't quite rate him at that level, and we were able to buy him for £300,000, which I think is an absolute steal because at 21 years old, he is 6'6" and he just wins everything, and he's a proper colossus. But he's broken his hand, so he's out for a couple of weeks at least. So I think vertically with height, we may be a little bit more vulnerable from crosses, from balls over the top, which he is particularly very good at dealing with. We last season without him in League One, we did get caught out on the bounce on the long ball quite a bit. So another vulnerability there, which I'm sure we will be trying to compensate for. But yeah, other than that, I think generally we're pretty solid. With the second best team in the country at defending set pieces. So now naturally,
don't tell me that, Max.
You'll score 2 corners now. I've said that, but yeah, we're very good at defending from set pieces. Probably like to just defend by keeping possession when we're in the lead. So we'd like to frustrate teams when we do take a lead. But yeah, I would say probably high pressing, catching us out in possession if we're being sloppy or too casual, and then hitting us hard before we can kind of recover our shape.
So what I've got from that is don't go for corners, press, and just don't concede first, because otherwise we're in for a miserable afternoon.
Probably, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay. So, I mean, so if we were going to put a score on it, bringing this pod to a close, are you going on Saturday?
I'm not. Well, I actually am in the area.
Okay, but you're going to see if you can try and watch it.
Well, I'm up in with family in Stoke-on-Trent, so I was going to go up on the Friday night, and then I was going to Saturday just make the 40, 50. I don't know how close it is. I think it's about an hour away. Not too far. Roughly. So next county over, isn't it? So should be all right. But that was the plan. However, I've decided actually after the Reading performance that we don't perform in front of big crowds, and I'm going to be a really bad fan and bin it off and go hiking in the Roaches instead. So
right, gotcha.
That's my plan.
keep an eye on the apps. Keep an eye on the apps
if I get signal. Although to be fair, it'll actually probably be better if I don't have signal, because it'll probably I'd actually quite like to get in from the hike and then it just be over, and I see one way or another rather than just get tortured by minute updates of a game I'm not at.
That is probably one of the best answers I've had asking that question. If you're going on Saturday and you've just pulled off an absolute blinder, if you were going to put a score on it and you were going to look in on your betting app after your hike in the Roaches, what would you like to see?
Well, I'd like to see a win, but I think I'm going to be realistic with how I think the game's going to pan out, and I'm going to say it's probably going to be a draw. I think we will either try and keep it 0-0, snatch one. It's just going to be another gritty away performance, I think, and that usually means it's going to be a goal to either side or a draw. I'd be surprised if it's a repeat of last year where you went, I think, 3-0 up in 15 minutes against us. I would be surprised. I think we'll keep it tight. We'll keep it solid. We'll keep it very, very basic, and it won't be a game for the ages, I don't think. My gut feeling is that we'll probably match you. Is my gut feeling with the way we're defending at the minute and the way we're snatching goals from the little chances we're creating. I think we're just quite clinical, but uninspiring, but solid. And I think you'll probably score as well, because you usually do at home against us. So yeah, I think 1-1 is my gut feeling, but hoping for a little bit more, as probably you will be as well for your side.
Yeah, 1-1. If I don't stick to the same one I gave last night, the lads will kill me. So I'll go 2-1 Derby, and we'll go there. I think it's going to happen. Chris Martin's probably going to get the one for you guys, and it's going to be horrendous to watch in person and not know what to do. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming on, Max, as always, each season, having you guys on. I'd love to give you an opportunity to plug the pod, the FCA nominated GasCast Podcast. Where can they find you, mate?
They can find us at GasCast Podcast. If anyone's interested in listening to a podcast we did after the awards where we were very drunk at 2 a.m, we have recorded one and published one. I don't remember about half of it, but I have listened back, and there is some absolute gold in there. Even if you're not a Bristol Rovers fan, it is good entertainment for that episode alone. But yeah, if you do want to check us out, that's where you can find us.
Brilliant. And to all the Rams fans, we are, as I say, doing our shows live on YouTube. Please subscribe. As I say, if you want to see our beautiful faces, we also are on everything: Spotify, Apple. Go and find us, Twitter, Instagram. You know the drill by now. But as I say, this has been Callum on the Rams Talk preview show with Max from the GasCast Podcast. Thank you very much.